And I have another camera in the driveway. They never went anywhere near the gutter there.
Okay.
And there's a one second story up. They don't have ladders that long. They should, but they don't. And the other thing, as long as I'm fetching, is, the sod that they just put down all died. It's dead.
The sod I know on the other side is, we had a discussion and it's marked for warranty replacement. We're just pausing on replacements right now.
This was the warranty replacement that just died again.
Yeah, we're gonna get it done again.
Yeah, so in front of everything on Long Meadow, it's 525.
Yeah, both sides. He's on the other side. Mine,
Yeah,
I got pictures.
it's bad grass. It came in bad.
Yeah.
It had a fungus or something in it, and it's just, I've tried to water a little bit, nothing happens.
Well, good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. on August 20th. It is the service area budget meeting for 2026 of the Savannah Square service area. Just a quick introduction of who we have in the room. On this side, I'm Jacob, your general manager with Town Hall. We have Ray Ferbez, your finance manager here at Celebration as well. I have Alex Georgiadis, your new service area director.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you, Alex.
Anything service area related, your go-to. Just a quick note, I'll have to leave the meeting a couple minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Delise, your service area administrator. With that, I see we have Mr. Johnson online and Mr. Rashkin in the room around, as well as the talents. Okay, with that, what we're going to do for this process is I'm going to present the draft budget. And I'll share that as well. I'm gonna pass this to Ray, our finance manager, to go through on a full line by line. We just ask, I know questions are gonna come up as he's going through it. Please hold all your questions, and then we're gonna go into those after. We'll reserve the last 10 minutes of this meeting or so to make sure we capture any other comments from the committee or from the committee on adjustments or things that they're just not in line with. And we're going to take those comments along with the draft version to the board for their September workshop to review all service area budgets. Then the plan is to send out the budget letters and then the board to approve them on their October workshop. That, Ray, I'll pass it over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So let's start with the proposal for the assessments for next year. For 2026, we're proposing a monthly assessment of $573.97. This represents an increase of 50 cents or a 5% increase year over year. You're going to see that you have increases on all the areas of operational, admin, and the reserve allocation. If we start with the landscape contract, the community of Savannah Square is still under contract up to December 31st of 2026, which means that the rate remains flat compared to 2025 at $27,877. Moving on to the landscaping for services not included in the current contract that we have in place, we're increasing this line a little bit under 50% based on the current expenditures. Up to June 30th, we have spent $3,200 and we only budgeted for 2025 for $1,560. So we increased this line a little bit for 2026 up to $3,000.
What is that?
This is for replacement of flowers and other minor stuff that is not covered under.
If you have a bush that dies here or there, or any sections that you want to do replacements on, any sod replacements would also be under that line, or your reserve landscape improvement line. I will say, as I'll let Ray continue, the landscape not in contract and the tree not in contract lines are lines that we heavily are seeking input of the committee, as they can be completely adjusted. However, the committee decides that they project to use funds next year.
Yeah, so as Jacob mentioned, the tree trimming line not in contract is very similar to the landscaping not in contract. This is a new line that we're trying to fund for all the service areas across the board. In this case, it's due to a policy change in the tree trimming, policy change on the side of CCDD. We're going to go into a little bit more details later on during the meeting. We're trying to fund this line for everybody at $95 per door. Some service areas have a lower increase than this, not $95 per door. It depends on the amount of trees that they have around the rebuilding areas of the house. Moving on to irrigation repairs, we budgeted $624 on this line for 2025. Up to June 30th, there has been no expenses on this line, so we reduce it for to $500 for next year. This is a placeholder in case we get any potential irrigation repairs needed. Moving on to water and electricity. Water, we've seen a big increase on this year. Spent all the budget up to June 30th. You have spent $1,500 and we only budgeted for $2,080. If these trends continue with the same run rate, you might end up at the end of the year with an expense, a water expense of close to $3,000, which is why we went with $3,000 for next year as well. On the electricity, we budgeted for $676 for 2025. Up to June 30th, you have only spent $212, which is why we reduced this line a little bit to $550 for next year, because we're not anticipating for you guys to use the whole or the full $676 on this year. General maintenance, we funded this line for this year for $2,080. It hasn't been used so far. We basically left the line flat for any general maintenance that's needed for next year. Roof repairs, we have seen some roof repairs up to June 30th. $1,600 has been spent so far out of the $5,000 that was budgeted for 2025. We also did a decrease on this line because of the run rate. We are only doing for next year $4,000 now. Moving on to spring pressure washing, the whole pressure washing line was split into two. We are doing now the spring pressure washing and the fall pressure washing, so the residents can see the difference in cost for the two lines. For 2025, for 2026, we're doing a 5% increase of the actual cost that we got for 2025. Please note that for spring pressure washing, your 2025 costs are currently $2,975. The reason why we're only budgeting $981 for 2026 is because pressure washing that was scheduled for 2024 was pushed for the beginning of this year. I believe it happened end of January or early February. So you're seeing a $2,000 bill on this line for the beginning of the year. Then you're seeing the spring pressure washing bill on top of that, which was 900 and something. On top of that 900 and something is that we're adding the 5% for next year, which take us to the $981.75, the spring pressure washing for next year. And we're doing 5% because, of course, there's no guarantee that we're going to go with the same vendor, that we're going to get the same prices, so we're just assuming at least a 5% increase for pressure washing. We already received the bids for the estimated cost for the full pressure washing for this year. We took those bids and we added a 5% on top of that number for 2026, and that way we land at $1,659 for the full pressure washing for next year. Gutter cleaning, unless you guys have gutter guards, we're trying to fund this line for everybody. We're adding, again, similar to full pressure washing, we had the bids for the 2025 projects. We added 5% on top of that number, and that takes us to $1,176 for next year. The termite bond, if we continue with the same vendor that we've been currently using so far, which is Florida Pest Control, they're doing an 8% increase year over year. So we're assuming the same 8% increase from 2025 to 2026. For 2025, we're expending the full cost of the termite bond is going to be $2,196. 8% on top of that is going to be $2,372. Now moving on to the admin expenses line. We're funding, again, the coupon book line. We're funding this line for everybody. We're trying to do 100% for all service areas. This is optional. This is just for residents that would like to request a coupon book to submit payments. They can do so. Each coupon books cost $10. So we're just assuming, because we're not seeing a lot of actuals on this line, a lot of expenses or costs. We're just doing $100, which would be 10 residents if they want to request 10 coupon books. Then we have the budget mailings. We're just doing $2 per door. This is to cover the expense of the stamps, which are currently sitting at a little bit over 70 cents. The expense of the envelopes, and we also pay a monthly fee for our mailing services, which is Pitney Bowes, the vendor. And then, as you guys might already be aware, there's a big increase on the admin fee for next year. This increase is going to be across on all 14 service areas are all seeing a 26.7% increase on this line item. Jacob is gonna walk you guys over how we got to that number for next year. And then for the reserve fund allocation, we're going with the recommendation of the reserve study plan, which is recommending for you guys to allocate for 2026, $60,700 for the reserve fund. As of today, you currently have a reserve fund balance of $414,000. This is not taking into consideration the remaining of the allocations that we have for the remainder of this year. And we're estimating that we're gonna start 2026 with a fund balance of $428,000, close to $430,000, which is compared to the reserve study plan, pretty solid. It's only, we only have like a deficit of close to $50,000.
Questions? This is a place for questions. So I'm looking, the expenses, that's pretty well flat.
Yes.
So the real increase is on the allocations. Is that really what I'm looking at?
The allocation has a slight increase and the other big increase is gonna be the.
But that's where the bulk of the 5% increase. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So could you explain to me, because I'm new to the townhouse world. Allocations, what does that mean? Is that like for the new roof or
Oh,
reserve, or is that,
Fund allocations?
yeah, what's allocation mean?
so, the monthly dues that you pay to the
Uh-huh.
operating fund, that goes straight to the operating fund account. And we do an allocation, we take a portion of that money, we move that money to your reserve fund account. So that's what we call an allocation of.
So we're you're asking for more money to put it in a reserve fund? Is that what?
Basically, yeah. So with the $573 that you guys paying on a monthly basis,
Uh-huh.
we take a portion out of that and we allocate that to the reserve fund bank account to fund your reserve balance.
And the rationale behind the increase of, for the reserve portion of it is because it's an aging building for roofs, or is that what
Yes,
I mean, I just need to understand.
Funds are done are established by a formalized reserve study.
Okay,
The reserve study we do every 3 years to take into account market changes. And it has a funding plan for 30 years out. That funding plan. That funding plan takes into account roof replacement, paint replacement, some gates as well as some general landscape items. And those are funded, project roofs about every 12 years, paint about every 7 to 9 years. And they're in that plan, so that way you have a funding and recommendation every year, as well as what your balance recommendation should be every year. So when Ray mentioned that you have about, was it a $15,000 deficit end of year? It means based off of what the reserve advisors, a nationally recognized large company that comes on site, spends about 2 weeks every 3 years assessing your current state of the buildings.
basically the assets of the community.
Yeah, the assets. Based on that is where they discuss, do they need to adjust any of these? Also, do building materials need to be adjusted based off inflation? And then that's why if there's ever, we say we're recommending based off the recommendation of the reserve plan, it's off of that. So that's what that number is increasing just slightly, which is good. Some saw larger.
well, yeah, like South Florida.
Yeah, it's a larger increase. This reserve study is very new. It was done in just in 2024 in the fall. So you're 1 year into it.
And you can use these funds just for the expenses that are listed here in the reserve study plan.
Here we are. The reserve plan has 2 pages to it. There's a funding plan that shows you where we expect your balance to be at end of year. So for Savannah Square, end of year is at $479,000. It also shows you next year where this one's not the right version I pulled up though. Shows a recommended balance as well as a recommended contribution, and then where your recommended expenses for those years are. That correlates to all of the line items in your reserves, which are irrigation, railings, the roof, and the paint, as well as gutters and fence. But yeah, overall, your budget, seeing a small increase. Your numbers this year are looking, your budget was 111,000. It's going up to 117,000. You're seeing about a $4,600 increase. you can count that to, 12 or a portion of that, $2,000 being that reserves
Yeah.
and
The current.
$1,500 of that being the CROA admin fee. That's making up most of it. The only
I'm
adjustment,
sorry, what's the CROA M? You can comment on it.
the CROA admin fee is, and I'll share that page as well.
Yeah.
I'll present this for those on the call, as it looks like we have Mr. Johnson and Mr. Nick on the call. Okay. So the CROA admin fee has been a discussion in all of these budget meetings. As it has gone, as Ray has mentioned, it's going up quite a large amount this next year. Why that is the case is when the CROA admin fee is a lump sum number that was sitting around at $200,000. That's then divided by 609 doors across all of the service areas to get a door, a by door rate. And then that brings you to the rate that you're seeing on your budget. When Grand Manor stepped in and was working on their first budget, there was no formula provided on why the fee was what it was. And then for a few years after that, it was increased at about a 4% inflation number year to year after that. In last year's discussions, we often receive feedback on why is it going up by 4%? Why is it what it is? This year, we did an analysis and we got to that due to us, CROA and Canoa were working on their cost sharing agreement for CJC. Canoa was, stating that they were not seeing the value out of their fee as well. So there was a large analysis done, an audit of time spent by staff, all staff here on site. And then that provided a portion of time for each of those. That time, that also showed other items that would be related to that. Rent, insurance, the labor burden rate, contractual benefits of employees, and all of those items to get a number that would justify the Canoa. Since we already were doing that study, we used a similar version to do it with the service area admin fee. Do you know, when we did this, it was not for any goal. I hoped, and we kind of thought when we started this process, that the number would come in lower, and we would be looking at lowering the admin fee this year. As it is a straight pass through from the administrative expenses of CROA and in part to CJC as well. So the CROA admin expenses are about $1.7 million a year. CJC is also around 1.7 million. So their collective is about $3.4 million. Now, getting back to it.
So is that making up the shortfall of the Canoa contribution?
This adjustment to your fee is in no part to what CROA is doing with CJC and Canoa.
Okay, all right.
It just coincided that since we were doing an audit, a time study, we were able to use a time study as well for other functions of our administrative staff. Okay. But your fee is not going up because CROA is having to pay more into CJC. Okay. That's not at all why yours is going up. It's a great question though. What that study resulted in is it showed us about a time percentage of staff usage. So naturally, your service area manager and your service area administrator, 100% of their time in a week is spent on service areas. And that's collectively for all 14 service areas. In parts of that, the general manager and you see your finance manager, both sitting at the table here, 20% of their time go into service areas. Executive director and facilities director drops about 5%, and then your resident service manager is sitting a bit higher at 7.5. The resident service manager, being Jeanette over here, handles most of the billing issues for your statements, as well as the reconciling of the water bills and the electric bills for all service areas. That's why that one's a little higher and was justifiable. That collectively created a salary range of $305,000. When we did the additional studies that were in place mainly for the discussion with Canoa, we passed those, or we studied those as well. On that $305,000, contractual benefits for that amount would be $45,000. The labor burden rate to real manage would be $17,000. An expected 4% adjustment for a following year. The rental space, as Canoa pays CROA rent for staff usage, that staff is CJC staff. Same to be said here, or well, actually it's justified that there's dedicated staff to service areas. And then insurance, networking costs, and an audit cost, which brought a number to $436,000 that they could say could be justified as an expense only on service areas.
Service areas.
The Crow Board and Finance Committee reviewed this. They disregarded anything past that $305,000. They said, no, we're not going that deep into this. We wanted to see a number. So that being said, they took the low number, or the number of 305,000 and looked at passing that through as
The unburdened labor.
the unburdened costs.
Yep.
Now, in 2025, this year, that fee was $219,000. That is a steep jump to 305 to pass through. When this was given to the Finance Committee to review, they validated the information that was shared there, but also said, do this in a 2-year step.
Okay.
So, for the service area, so they're not seeing it in 1 year jump. So bad news of that is, yes, you're seeing about a 26% increase this year with slightly smaller, but still a significant increase next year. And then we do expect it to flatten out, maybe a CPI increase after that, but not anything.
So this is year one of that study and
Yeah.
increase.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you back up? You had 100% of the executive director to the service area?
5%. Yes.
I just see it right. So could you back to where it was? Oh, 5%. I'm sorry. Just didn't see.
No, it was good. Yeah, if it was 100%, I think you could just use that.
As you're trying to catch it, I caught the bottom end of the service.
No,
area.
no.
Got it.
5%.
There you go.
And keep in mind, like, that's for all service areas. So
And how many service areas are there?
14.
14.
Okay.
Where do we
Jacob,
fall on the
just one
scale?
more
Are we
question.
smaller?
Yeah.
Go ahead and take his question first, and then we'll come back to mine.
I just, where are we in the scale as far as the size of our service area relative to the other?
Actually, that number on the same page here. Here's the size of all of them. So, you
We got 17.
have 17,
All right.
some are larger,
Okay.
and some are much smaller.
All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, the question online?
Sure. It's Walter Pershnick. I was just wondering, for the time study, over what length of time was that time study done because I'm sure we didn't study all 52 weeks by task. So was it
No,
like
that
a
was
month or-
that was an average over 3 months between, that was February, March, April.
Okay, perfect. That sounds like a great representative sample. So thank you.
It takes into account, we see dips and waves, budget season being a much higher
Yeah.
for this team, but then
Yeah.
there's some adjustments on it.
Yeah, no, a quarter feels like a very good size length. So that makes me feel much better. Thank you.
So I'm going to switch back over to the budget. This is the point where we'd like to really hear, the committee's feedback on any of the lines, if there's any discrepancies on the proposed budget. As this is a draft, and there are items that we can look at adjusting.
I'll ask the question why you randomly, as far as I'm concerned, randomly increase things by 5% when inflation's at 3%.
That was done partially just to be conservative in these budget numbers.
They say that every year, but every year there's conservative, like higher by 22 to 3% higher than reality.
I mean, but that being said, if you look at your pressure washing alone, those numbers combined are less than what you're budgeted this year. So so that's why it was a 5%. We could just run it at 3%, or even run it flat, and flat will be higher than 5%.
Well, I don't know what the reality is on retaining these companies. They never last more than a year. You get a new company every year, and even the one that was best, you've never gone back to. And they were the least expensive.
We bid those out every year.
Bid out every year per project.
So termite,
Not with termites, but the gutter cleaning and the pressure washing.
so we bid that out every year. And it's
Your termite.
at the RFP, like three
Contract.
bids out. Is that what we
Minimum.
know for?
Does termite do anything except he's provided on? They don't spray, do they?
They do a treatment every year, and we are been asking, we're gonna look at what is included in that
Yeah,
treatment.
nothing. I mean,
don't-
that's my question. They don't go inside. They don't,
Yeah.
It's
don't go-
primarily-
they don't check roofs.
No, they don't.
That's where usually you have termites is up in the attic, but they usually come in that way. But so no one seems to inspect insides. I don't know what they're looking at, and they don't treat outsides. They used to have those green containers all along the front of the
Right.
townhomes. They're gone. They don't that was bait
Yeah, the bait.
There's no more of that. So I didn't even think we had service anymore. Are we just paying for a bond?
There is the bond, and then we were, like I said, we're gonna see what is included in that service, but it's primarily for the bond.
Okay, because that's a big number for a bond, no service.
We did do there was Florida Pest,
Massey.
Massey. So this year,
Well, they have Floridas, and we did the exercise with Massey to see if the rates would be better.
and they were
I mean,
much higher with this year. We just entertained another company. As most happen.
And I understand this is new for you guys, so, but I'm just saying, I don't think they do anything.
Okay.
And I don't even know what we're paying them for because their bond is so limited. It basically says you're on your own. And they aren't inspecting. So if my next door neighbor, or if I have termites, immediately goes next door. We don't even know what's going on. The place to inspect, I have another home, South Florida. They inspect the attics. They inspect outside the home. They look for droppings on windowsills. These people never come in to look.
Yeah.
You know, the wings drop off.
There's no scope of going into the attics on these, but
That's a
we
bare,
can't.
that's absolutely a bare minimum. That's the way they come in.
Yeah,
Through
I
the
know.
attics.
We've already made a note for another service area to look into this. Alex, Delise, can we make a note to really get an answer for this for their September quarterly meeting so we can just follow up with them?
Yeah, and then I don't know why we're assuming there'll be 8% increase. Has it been 8% per year?
Yeah, from 2024 to 25.
I don't know what we get for that 8%, but
Yeah.
so my real question is, you're rounding these to 5% increases on things like pressure washing. And the pressure washing and the gutter cleaning, it seems like you get locals to do that. Local residents are doing it. I don't know what real experience they have, what equipment they have. They were supposed to have cleaned the interior fencing that divides our property, the plastic fencing, the last time. They didn't.
During the pressure wash?
They didn't do it. And in fact, in the back of my house, all they did was take a hose and spray, just a hose. Like the step 3 is after you finish, you're supposed to hose off all the chlor. They just hosed the back of my
No,
house
we-
and my next door neighbors.
Yeah.
They don't do much. And so,
Back off the last pressure washing, the full pressure washing. We agree.
so now you have a full pressure washer. Is this one coming up just the sidewalks or just buildings and sidewalks?
This is building and sidewalks.
So the sidewalk in front of my house, I clean it myself, by the way. I come out and I pressure wash it. I had done 3 months before they came out. 2 weeks after they came out, it's already black. I don't know what they're cleaning it with, water, maybe. They're not putting anything else down, but it didn't stop the mildew from continuing to grow on the sidewalk. And I'm sure we paid a number for that. I don't know if anyone else experiences that, but where there are dips in the sidewalk and they're all over. Water collects and mildew collects. So if we're just assuming we're giving these increases, I wouldn't assume it. I mean, candidly, I don't think we got much for what we paid for, as you know, the gutter cleaning forgot to do Long Meadow the last time, not this time that they just did it this week. The time before, they forgot to do 8 units. And that's why the number is so low. We didn't pay for them because they didn't do them. It's like, and no one, and even though I kept asking about that, no one there responded until you did, Jake. Said, it's like it didn't get done. So 5%, shouldn't it be 3%? Shouldn't it be 4%? Is there a number that comes closer to reality than 5%?
One of the reasons why the fall pressure washing is a good example of this is we received 4 bids back. Unfortunately, with the bids we received back from many of this 14 associations, even at the lowest bid, it was over budgeted amount significantly, yours being an exception to that. And that bid collectively for all service areas was about 58,000. The second closest bid was 20,000 more, 80,000. And then the 2 additional bids were in the $300,000 range. So if we budgeted based only off of an inflation number, it's locking us into a bid of the cheapest, which we are not sure if that's going to be our best contract or not. Even when we were proposing this to the board, we had another vendor maybe that we would prefer, but there were so many of the service areas that had no budgeting, or their budgeted amount was so much lower, we couldn't be recommending a different provider to it.
Once upon a time, we used the painter who painted the house as the pressure cleaner. And it was because they wanted to come back to paint the next time and they wanted to come back to pressure clean. It kept the prices more reasonable. Though we don't seem to do that anymore.
The vendor we've selected this fall is a painter, and we've used them for paint.
Which one is that?
Is Central. Thank you.
Centrals who did us last time, painted us last time. Unfortunately, too, that's just a subcontract, Jeff. That was just a very nice young family that came out and painted all of our townhomes. Had nothing to do with the guy who came out here and bid the price and guaranteed the work, but he wasn't the painter, and that's not his company. Just a very nice young family that came out with a child, including with a child, painting. Is that who we're going to get again? Is it? I mean, I thought we were getting the company Central Painting. We got some, and I'm not knocking them. Well, they had to keep coming back, and in the end, they still didn't paint a couple of the trim pieces the right color. Just you get tired of telling them, oh, that's the lighter color, that's the darker color, whatever. But you don't use Vice anymore? Vice did a very good job on our place years ago. It's painting, and they were also the pressure cleaner.
Yeah. The issue we started to see, more recently is more declines coming in on RFPs because they've bid multiple times in the past. They were getting jobs, and now we're saying we're not bidding for celebration anymore. So that's creating some challenge in why we're seeing it. We expanded the search this time. Unfortunately, by expanding the search, that's what brought in the quotes over $300,000. These are new companies really wanting to be in celebration. I'm sure that they were going to do a wonderful job, but it was not even, considerable.
Is this for elastomeric paint? The elastomeric paint that we put on the town?
This is pressure washing.
Oh, just the pressure one. I mean, the Central Paint is going to use the elastomeric.
I'm not.
So the paints that they use, it's sort of a plasticized paint. It always was. It lasts forever. As long as it doesn't damage, it lasts. And it improves on the pressure cleaning as well because it's easy to clean. It's a plasticized finish. We used to use a very expensive version of that from 3M, but they used last time, and I think they did it with Central as well. They just used the generic, and it was fine.
So Exquisite is under contract for next year, right? For landscaping. I just need to go on record as saying we're not pleased. We're not happy with what we're saying. I mean, 3 times now in the last year, they've replaced the sod. And when we put the sod down, they just throw it over the irrigation heads, and they expect it to just work its way up. So I have to go in and physically find all the heads, flag them, and open them up. So it's just carelessness. And then we know the issue where the new sod, they weed whacked it. Well, you can't weed whack, it's new sod. And they take it down to the root ball, and then it's all dead. So it's just an example of carelessness or incompetency. I don't know which, or maybe a combination of the two. But if they're under contract, we really got to hold them accountable. I know, like the park, this isn't anything to do with like the park and the fountain and all that stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay, but just to say, from last CROA meeting, my understanding was Lauren said that no hand weeding was not included in their contract.
That's
Well,
already been adjusted, and she.
Right, well, just go on record, she was wrong.
Yeah, she shared.
Absolutely was wrong, and it's unfortunate that the director didn't understand the contract before she shared it with everyone. So they need to go out. I saw them last Friday. After that meeting, they were tipped off because they were out there in force, cleaning and weeding, and you know what? It looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it looks much better. And that's our expectation, primarily for me, for him, Long Meadow and Savannah Square, because that's where we live. And it's also the iconic portion of celebration. You know how many weddings, events, people come to town, and that's where they land. And if we're going to showcase this, bring our property values up, it's got to look good. And it hasn't been. It's been really, really bad. So I know this is budget, but it's Exquisite, and they take care of our townhomes, and they need to be held accountable.
That is one.
I'll get off the soapbox now.
All of the
That's why-
resodding we've done, I presume, should have been warranty work, not at our expense.
Correct.
And we're about to do it, I guess, a fourth time.
Yeah.
Because I think they just plain bought bad sod. It had, you can see it in some areas, it had like a fungus in it, and it's just spreading. It's spreading to the good grass. So you're about to have to redo all the grass, including the grass that surrounds it, that's been in place now for 6 months. because that fungus is just spreading all over. Now, I will tell you that about less than a week after my sod was put down, a spray guy came out. And my Ring doorbell picks all this stuff up. And he's spraying a very heavy white on all of the grass. My next door neighbor on the right had older grass. It didn't damage it at all. If it isn't a fungus that killed this sod that's down now, it's that spray. Because every place he sprayed it, it died with the new sod. But literally, you could watch the day he did it, everything was green. And within 3 days, everything was brown, like it had been poisoned.
Mr. Edward, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I just want to piggyback on what Paul said, is that one out in front of my house, which is 523, they never finished the sod. I got one side, I've got sod up to the ground cover, and the other side, I'm missing about 2 feet of sod. And the other thing I want to say is they come in and they mowed the old grass down and then laid the new grass over it. Well, you're putting healthy grass over diseased grass. They really need to go in there and dig up the old stuff, get it below concrete level, and fertilize it too. I mean, it's not going to grow the way they're putting it down. It's just going to be a patchwork for the rest of their lives.
Agreed.
On that, we are working on across the board upholding contractual requirements with our landscape vendors, specifically with Exquisite.
Thank you.
And on that as well with Lauren, she caught that there was some more recent landscaping contracts in other service areas that was removed from that based off of budgetary issues when those contracts were written. So there are some that don't say that, and that she has even shared whether she plans to come to the next meeting to correct that, as that is an incorrect statement for most Crow parks.
Okay.
The regarding yours, there is an option in, well, I'm saying this not because I'm saying you should, but it's an option on the table as we are working to uphold those contractual requirements there. If that is something that you want to look at if you are dissatisfied to the point that you want to have room to be available to RFP and look at other companies in next year, now is the time to look at adjusting that budget for others. As we know, this year we had 2, for instance, that are with Exquisite. They RFP'd landscapers. All the bids that came back were significantly more than what their rates are locked in now. And that kind of put them in a spot where they just disregarded their RFPs. But it was then brought back up now in these meetings, because this is the time where you can adjust funding. Even if you're locked under that contract next year, you can stay and we can continue to fight and make it better. But if to allow you room in your budget for next year, we could change your contracted amount to a higher amount for that. You do have at least a 30-day out. It might be shorter, some are 7, but I want to say it's a 30-day out on yours. So by the time you wanted to do an RFP, get a vendor selected, you could do a switch over in the year. I'm putting that on the table just for your knowledge sake. Okay. And that now is the time during a budget process, is the time to budget for it. Especially seeing you don't have a very large operating cash threshold. So it's not even one that you could just absorb the difference on, in a calendar year. It would really be something that you would need to budget for. However, when we say that does then increase dues.
Yeah.
And I know that's not in budgeting season. Those are also something to highly consider.
Yeah.
As far as the tree policy, I think I know what that's about, but can you describe this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, again, a great line. Although the other that we really are looking for your feedback on is you don't have to fund it. But that is CDD has changed their kind of overall policies, and this is not specific to service areas. This is all and town-wide single-family homes, Crow parks, and service areas, where they're really predominantly only trimming the roadway clearance. Any other trimming of the arbors are not being done. They do have some continued trimming that they're doing that are on about an every 3-year basis. However, we've been seeing this line of your landscape not in contract line for other service areas being wiped out from either tree replacements of maybe a crepe myrtle in yards or anything like that. I know we have you also have some large oak trees in the back alleys on the mulberry side that needs some arbor work. So really anything that's arbor work related or tree replacement has been, for many accounts, been wiping out your landscape cotton and not in contract lines or being deferred as there's no funding available. So this is why we're proposing funding a line for trees. Again, as a committee, if you don't want to fund it, that's fine. It just limits what work we can do around trees. Also, just thinning out canopies to allow more light and to grow more vegetation at the front of your porches. CDD is not being very receptive to doing that work as they have been for many years in the past.
Because my understanding is CCDD, if it's on our side of the sidewalk, it's the resident's responsibility. If it faces the street, they're supposed to take care of that.
So until 5 years ago, so
Correct.
they did both sides.
Right, but that's currently where,
Then they stopped doing anything. And then.
but now
they
it's,
started again, doing the streets.
so that line item is to take care of that and any of the oaks in the back.
Is it, that, my question is, if one of those trees, and I have reason to believe at least more than one is dead, or dying, of
The
those tall,
replacement of the trees
those
is
50
still
tall-
on CDD.
it's, no, they won't replace them either. So their position at CDD is the homeowner has to replace the tree when it dies.
If it dies to.
But we're not the homeowner, the service area is the homeowner. So,
So if it dies because of the trimming, if
No,
it's
just-
just want to trim, but no, if it dies due to natural causes or a storm, CDD is replacing those trees.
if a storm knocks it over, they have traditionally replaced it with something else
Mhm.
smaller, but something else.
If a tree falls in my front of my house, it dies, or they're supposed to replace it?
Yes, that is not being passed to the service.
Not
area.
supposed to, but they do. They refuse to say that they have an obligation to, but they say, as long as their budget allows it, they've been doing it. But we're at the point now where you have 25-plus-year-old trees in front of homes. And I can see at the tops of a couple of these, things are just breaking off and dying. One happened in front of my house, I think one.
Yeah, Brian told me mine needs to go.
Yeah, I think Brian had said to me that his tree just needs to go.
Yeah.
So is this funding the removal of a 45-foot tree? Or?
It's a drop in a bucket to start
Yeah,
as a service area, and especially when, like I said, there's some oak trees on the mulberry side in the back alleys around those are fully the service areas that have issues that need trimming and all those. And it just comes down to where is the service area funding it from?
Okay.
And right now, there's not really many options to fund it from.
we used to fund it out of the landscape
Out of-
budget.
Out of you have a small line in your reserves that you can often use as well. But it would be for ongoing trimming as well.
That 95, this is for, I'm still not clear. This is not this is not our side of the tree
This is
cost. It is our side of the tree cost. Yeah.
That number, $95 came up. We use that as a benchmark as we saw Parkview Townhomes did an arbor thinning and trimming on their side for their homes. And it was about $200 a door for that. But that needed to be done every 2 years, in the sense if you wanted to do a full for your whole community, you could just hold the funds and do it every 2 years. If you want to use it ad hoc for whatever needs you need, you could use it on an annual basis like that. It's also just one that you may see that it's not enough and we want to increase that in future years. Being a first year GL, we wanted to start somewhere. But also if the service area says, no, we care more about our bottom line, we can pull it. It's just, again, we won't be looking at acting upon the request of some of the homeowners to do tree trimming of trees, funding for.
So the ornamental trees, like some of the custom trees that I have in front of our houses on our street,
This line as well.
is that part of Exquisite's responsibility to trim them and shape them? Because I had to ask him to,
Their contract.
Yes, yeah, like ligustrums.
yeah, because I had to,
Like a dome shape
yeah, I asked them to shape the trees on our side.
contract. Yeah, you don't pay extra for that.
But I mean, are they, expectation is that they will do that? Okay.
And that's also true for some of the ornamentals in the back, not
Yes.
the oaks in the back, but the ornamentals in the back.
Correct.
Everything outside
That's
of
within their
the
regular
gates, right?
contract.
Correct. No additional charge for those items.
What about the crepe myrtles that are along the sidewalk? They haven't been trimmed in years.
You mean
It's,
on the park?
Yeah.
On the park,
Yeah.
Yeah,
PRO's general principle on park crepe myrtles is they do not trim crepe myrtles.
at all?
at all,
Okay.
at all.
That's sort of a new
Only-
policy.
Only in, I think they looked up, it's been at least 10 years, Stan.
No. It's new with you guys. It's trimmed every year up until you.
Yeah.
And managed. It was an annual event that they would trim back. What about?
We will not thank you too much, but,
No, he has another service area that he's,
all right.
yeah, another service area
Pull me over.
Okay, thank you.
required his attention.
Anyway, it's not neither here nor there for me, but I know some people think it's already done because they otherwise don't survive very well. Is that your position?
Yeah, we passed that to the Crow Board, well, they just left it.
They haven't flowered in years, those crepe myrtles, going on that part.
I lose track of time, but I'm thinking that it's 3 to 5 years.
It's not been trimmed since we've been there. We've been there 3 and the growth was extensive already. So I bet.
They don't flower
closer
at
to
all anymore
5.
because they're supposed to be cut
It
back.
used to grow heavily every year and be cut back heavily every year.
Yeah.
And I think.
I used to cut back every year.
Just trying to put
January.
back to as we.
Yeah, I know, you got. Sorry.
Oh, is it-
You do have a landscape line in your reserves. It's funded at 3,900 for next year, and then it does drop to $2,000 a year. So that can be used for sod, that can be used for a replacement of a tree. We can kind of use it for arbor trimming. It's not preferred because that's not what it's for. We can do it.
Right.
But unfortunately, it is a line only funded at $2,000 a year. But in that sense, you can kind of combine that with your landscaping line of your operating.
16, yeah.
1,600, but that's any plant, that's everything that is not just your standard contract. Anytime there's a plant replacement, anytime they would be using those funds.
Have other service areas been cutting out that $95 fee or they've been?
So they've almost all left it. There's a few that we suggested a lower amount, but those are like Spring Lake or Island Village where their trees are just, only 15 feet tall. So they're funding it at a lower amount mainly because of ornamental tree replacement. They want to keep some funds in their lines for that. But most of the well-established service areas have kept it funded for that amount.
Yeah, and will the arbor services and the general care of trees be bid separately from the landscaping, or is that going to just be a rider on Exquisite's contract? What's the plan for that?
That we would do typically as a separate arbor project.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
not tied to anything actually out of the land, anything out of replacements. Anytime you replace sod, a plant, or that, you are not tied to use Exquisite to do so. It's often that your landscape provider does the installs because on new installs, they can provide a warranty. Where if you chose an outside provider, they're not going to warranty it. They're not your landscape caretaker. Exquisite does the tree trimming. However, they use a arborist company, and then they have to pay. They get dinged with the workers' comp coverage for that. So we requested that be itemized out on their future request just for Crow Park reasons as well. So if you use Exquisite to do tree trimming, you'd have a quote and it would say, $3,000 for tree trimming. That $3,000 is going straight to the arborist, and it might say $50 for workers' comp coverage. That is going into Exquisite's pocket, but due to what they're being charged, they've stated many times that
It's a pass through.
it's a pass through. They don't gain anything from the arborist, but they do it through it, just trying to be a holistic. But we've asked them just to break it out just to help.
Good.
So you can use them,
Yeah,
but you can also not.
No, like my big question was it a separate bid, or was it already included as a ride? Would it have to go based on a rider? And you answered that part, so cool.
May I ask the water increase? Have we found out why that has doubled?
We looked into it. We saw it was it mainly spiked when we laid the new sod
Okay,
for extra additional watering.
okay, that's what I figured. So, well, it sounds like we're gonna have to be laying new sod over and over again, but is that a cost that will really continue? If sod is properly installed and maintained?
Good question. Water bills across service areas and Crowell alone for many years have been a shot in the dark, and they're not stable.
Okay,
And on a year-to-year basis, park basis, they're not stable. Every time we can go in and audit and question a little bit, but
I guess more of my question or request would be to let's find out, because that, if I saw my water bill jump like that at home, I'd be saying, okay, what's going on? So
In anticipation.
there should be some eyes on,
This, and
Yeah.
that, is it collectively going up, or was it a surge when it's in correlation to sod laying and we saw more? However, it was more of that drought season as well that we saw it increase.
so is someone going on and adjusting the sprinklers to go on more frequently, or is it just staying the same? Like where does the water usage, how does that get adjusted?
Time you have new plantings, your clocks are adjusted for new planting
Okay.
cycles, and then they're adjusted back a few weeks later.
And so is the irrigation area like in the park that has the fountain?
Completely separate, that's a grow up, all grow.
Just our units.
Okay, okay, so just in our properties?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So the bottom line is 5% increase.
The
That's what we're talking,
5%,
proposed.
unless you want to, I mean, you could not fund your general maintenance line, you could not fund the tree line. We hesitate against those as you don't have you don't have a well-standing operating fund. Some are, you're very close to your monthly move through, what you stand in your operating is what is flowing in and out of your account. Some service areas, we have a $50,000 to $80,000 buffer on their operating fund. If you were in that state where you had additional cash, I think I would even recommend don't fund your maintenance expense. You can play 1 year on tree trimming by ear and eat it out of that cash if you wanted to. It is just an advisement that we were budgeting a bit more conservative on your operating for 1 year to try to bolster those.
So your proposal for this year, this coming year, and then following year, that's going to shore us up to, so we're going to be in a good place for as far as reserves and.
The intent would be, yes, that you're not needing to use all of that, all of the funds in repair or general maintenance. And that, in that case, it can just help.
So we don't get in trouble 2 years from now when,
Under.
we don't have enough in the reserves. Okay.
Reserves, I think you
Well,
need to fund.
that's
fully
not your
fund.
reserves, that's your operating cash. Your reserves are funded about to what they need to be.
Yeah.
So the reserves will be okay, but the operating, this is going to shore that up.
Things like general maintenance, I don't know what that is. What have we ever done any general maintenance?
General maintenance,
Zero line.
it's there because if it doesn't fit in a line, so I know we have one maybe coming up where there's some fence repair. Or actually, do you have a fence repair?
You're doing iron work this coming up this year, next year.
There's a reserve line, but we've never had general, to my knowledge, the staff doesn't do this anymore. Once upon a time, there was a guy who came out, they painted my back door one day. He was one of you, just someone who worked for the old company. He didn't hire anyone to do it. It's the painted bubble. He said, I'm going to take it off. I'm not going to call the painter back. I'm going to do it myself. I called that general. I've seen it since. It's 15 years ago. I don't think that's a line that ever gets filled for us, but do you see otherwise?
It's, it's like I said, it's a holder for that. I think we have a request for some gate repair, maybe coming in, and that would fit in that line. Again, ideally, you would.
So as an example, my front porch has railings.
Mhm.
The railing that goes into the ground has a big hole that just collects water. And I've asked them to just come out and pour concrete into it, a filler, as it should have been done originally. It's for the 15 years I've been there, it's never been done. I've always been told the same thing. We don't do general maintenance anymore. So if we're not doing that, I don't want to be putting money aside that we'll then spend on something else that we shouldn't be spending it on. By the way, I think that needs to be fixed and I refuse to fix it. It's not my job.
No, I'd like to look at fixing that for you. But
Yeah, I mean, it's not you. I've complained year to year to year and it broke away. The filling material broke away. And
So can we quantify what this year was there general maintenance done?
No, you have a budget, you have a budget for 2,000.
Why do we keep it?
they just
You haven't
don't
spent
spend
anything.
So my suggestion, why would we keep it in there as a line item if we haven't used it?
Like my own suggestion would be to keep it so that way, if you do have an expense, you budgeted for it. If you don't, then it can start building up your operating cash. But
Okay, no, I got you. That makes sense.
you don't have to, you're just gonna keep running.
If we don't run it, it goes to the operating budget.
Yes,
Okay.
you don't lose it. It doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
That's
say-
not, that's
I
not
will
true.
say that one of
We
my.
sort of do lose it. We budget towards something, but we spend it on something too. Every year they do the same thing. They say, we're just going to put this aside, but by the end of the year, it's gone. Where did it go? Well, we needed to use it over here on sprinklers, but no, sprinklers are supposed to be on the contract of irrigation.
I have seen that in the past as well, and that's one thing that we're really cutting down on. Myself, I'm with the purview on this, and why, and with your new director as well. And also now that you have in a committee, any large expenses or any type of expenses that aren't, I'd say, lined out here as a necessary ongoing item, we will be passing this to your committee for.
So essentially you have a 20-something dollar increase. $10 a door of that is there's $2,000 for something that we never need. So that's $10,
it seems-
$10 of the $26 increase you could wipe out by just saying, well, we're not going to budget that this year.
And we're fine. You
Okay.
can do that. And
Well,
we're agree to that, but it's just gonna run you.
I've never seen that budget line for general maintenance populated, except on the budget side. There's never an expense under it.
Mm-hmm.
Money goes someplace. The money always disappears someplace, but it isn't for that. So I just as soon not do that. I don't think we should budget things that in reality we're not ever spending.
Mr. Pershnick, are you trying to say something?
Yes, I would like, I think the question that was asked earlier about whether there were any uses this year, and it sounded like there were none, was a good one. But I think it would be nice to elucidate for the residents and clarify what should fall into that bucket. Because if there are requests that should fall into that bucket that haven't been honored, I would rather leave the bucket and do the work than not have the bucket and not do the work. So before I'm ready to vote one way or another, I would like to know what that bucket, what are some examples of things that should fall into that bucket so that we can do the work, because a lot of times a little bit of work ahead saves larger expenses later.
What we're mainly seeing in other service areas are going to be gate repairs and sidewalk repairs. Sidewalk repairs not being the front sidewalk is out of CDDs. However, the sidewalk repairs from your garage, the entry of your garage around to the gate to your private zone. I think there's actually one in your service area that we're looking at as we were assessing all of those, where tree roots are popping it up. They need either sanded down or concrete replaced. That is a general.
So that would be a general maintenance thing.
Yes.
And for the brick sidewalks between the fronts and Long Meadow or Mulberry, are those association expense because they're standardized, or are those owner expense? So I guess my question is, where do those fit within general maintenance? Because I know that.
That one's an interesting one. I may lean on you for the history on that. Were those installed by the association? Or
No,
by-
so here's the deal. Everyone who still has concrete, that's three of us. You're responsible for that. Every owner who decided to put in brick, they're responsible for
Residents, yeah.
residents themselves.
My answer was going to be something along the lines of that, but what we have seen before, and it can be done, is let's say there was some brick repair that some homeowners were requesting. With a committee in place, we don't have to, while the rules are more black and white, it can be proposed to the committee, and the committee can say, yeah, that's the rule. But we could use our general operating cash to do that.
That was the board's decision to allow them to have it, period.
So, yeah.
They had to make the concession that they would be responsible for all repairs on those bricks,
Mhm.
that the association would no longer have any responsibility for them.
I'm okay with that.
And everyone seemed to be okay with that.
Yeah, but this is a great
Except
example.
that my side was not supposed to have any brick. Then one of the homeowners decided to put the brick down, much to the consternation. Ed, who came afterwards, who had to deal with the mess under it.
Yeah. As I say, this is also one area where just because the boards retain the authority still, right? So current boards can make changes of what previous boards had agreed to. So one that I would like to propose to consider for budgeting is annual sprinkler inspections, because to do a sprinkler inspection and maintenance as an individual is phenomenally expensive. But if we were to contract that as the entire association, it would help all of us.
That's something we're trying to uphold, because that's covered under your contract, under your landscaping contract.
No, I meant internal fire safety.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's another can of worms.
Yeah, because they should be inspected and serviced every year. But from what I can, and in order.
I don't
for
think they
us to
ever
get-
have.
I don't think so either, because I don't see any
Yeah.
inspection stickers. And for us to truly get the insurance benefits and everything else, we should be able to provide to our insurers certificates of annual inspection for the entire physical structure. So that's one area that I would like to propose for consideration as a shared expense.
Are you talking about the sprinklers in the building or the fire hydrants outside?
Interior fire safety sprinklers.
On a high level, I don't think your board can have any authority on that, as your service area doesn't pertain to anything drywall in. If you would like to type something up, though, I'm happy to pass that to the board, and if your committee wants to back it, then it can be a full committee request. And I can put that to the board, and it can even be a workshop discussion item for them.
The weird thing about that is I'm pretty sure the piping interconnects.
Yeah, it's all
It's not-
shared.
I don't think,
That's-
it doesn't just come, it's not an owner's
Yeah,
water line. I think it's an interconnecting.
so
Fire
if
system.
if you're wanting to lie under, can it be done based on the governing documents of the association? I don't like to say it, but that would require then us to reference legal counsel's involvement on it. And that wouldn't, especially now Crow is making sure that we're billing back legal counsel on service areas. So that service area legal fees line that isn't funded. Some service areas that are bigger funding at around $250, maybe $500. I'm not recommending you do. I'm just saying that that's what that line is for, and any questions to general counsel are to be collected on those lines if they're brought.
Got it. So that's the sort of thing that would then fall into the operating expense overage if it's an unfunded line, or the operating that makes sense. So maybe not this year, but
I want to bring up something because you will open up a can of worms, because I have several hotels that we're going through this right now, but NFPA states that every 20 years, you're to take 20% of your sprinklers and have them tested to ensure they still work. And one of my hotels, basically, they have 300 sprinkler heads. It runs us about $15,000 for every 300 heads. So we may want to look at that, because that's going to get very expensive if we put it in the budget.
and that's exactly why I asked the question, because it's a massive expense to absorb as an individual.
Yeah.
But there's power in bulk sometimes.
Do I have? Okay, so we have two members of your committee here. Is there any, three, you have,
Ed Johnson?
oh, you're right. My
Alter?
apologies, I forgot, yes. So you have three. So you have quorum. Is there anything you'd like as hard statements to provide contradictory to the numbers you're seeing here?
For my
We'll present this to the board, but we're also putting on front of that recommendations that differ from this from the committee.
So Walter and Ed, I'll start from the top of this list. You want to leave the $95 on for the tree? Leave it there?
I do.
I do.
Okay, and how about the percentages that they've just randomly toward the bottom of that section? It was 5%, 5%, 5%. You want them to leave it 5% and go 3%?
I support 5 because our Orlando metropolitan area inflation is 6.8. So that's below our statistical metropolitan area inflation.
Okay, Ed?
I would like to see true cost for that instead of just a randomly 5% increase. I mean, what are we actually going to pay for not pressure washing, but washing the buildings and the sidewalks and stuff, and see what the real cost is before we.
Your
put them
true
in.
cost is, for the contract being signed right now, is $1,580 for your fall pressure washing.
Okay, so it's just 55% over 25 budget number.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I guess I'm okay with it.
Okay, we'll leave those. Do you guys have anything on a line item that you want us to consider as a committee to vote one way or the other, or are you happy with the overall?
That general maintenance to me is kind of a sticking point for me. We
Yeah.
haven't spent any money, so
Take it off?
I think we should take it off. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and we have money in reserves if we really had a significant replacement that we had to do on a fence or something like that, we have reserves for that.
Yeah.
That has to reach a certain threshold, so it's not for minor expenses.
Correct.
Take the 2,000 off.
And that's the
That
true
will drop your
reserve. The,
percentage from 5 to-
I'm sorry.
That will drop the percentage from 5 to 3.2.
That much?
That percent, that five.
Oh, 3 points for that line items. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And overall, you're saying the overall increase drops to 3%?
Yeah,
Yeah,
from 5 to 3.
it's only 25 or it's.
yes. I mean, your whole percent
15.
on this was only going up by $5,000 from 111 to 107.
Oh, yeah,
So
let's do it. Yeah.
those adjustments make a difference.
So does it seem reasonable to both of you from our standpoint? I mean,
For the reason
you're not going to say, oh my God, they're crazy over at Savannah Square?
No, for the reason you're doing it is fine. The only hesitations I would say we have is you just run a really tight operating cash amount.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying is if there was spare, from your experience, if there was spare cash to be used. And that's,
Just so you know, your current balance as of today on the operating account is gonna be $9,867. That's your current balance up to date on your operating fund.
Hey, guys, I gotta go off to another call. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Ag.
Bye.
yeah, from my vote, I would say leave it, but I think that makes it 2-1, so it still comes off, right?
I mean, like Jacob mentioned, we'll present to the board the current version that you're reviewing, and then we'll also present your suggestions, and then it's up to the board for them to approve
Yeah.
which of the versions.
They ultimately decided.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, they'll probably ask, what's our recommendation on that? And it's gonna be one of those, it's very hard because they have very reasonable reasons too, as the line's not been funded. I was just trying to see what's there.
I think going back for years, it's always been zero.
Yeah.
It's just been a slush fund. That's what I
And-
would.
Yeah, my concern is with the back billing from CROA is that there may be more things that we'll get back billed for next year. So having that extra operating cash gave me a little bit higher confidence that we wouldn't accidentally, or at least if we did blow through it, it would be a lot harder to say we didn't try.
For example, your total expenses going out in July were $7,000. So your monthly run rate, budget was a bit lower, but some months have expenses that are on an annualized budget, you see more in one month than others. So you're moving $7,000 through the account every month. That's why I'm saying you just have a really tight margin at 2,000.
Do we have any delinquencies?
That would be showing here.
There's something in that report that I don't know if everyone sees that, in that report that I get that shows you don't have an accurate address on new homeowner, but she owns a home on Mulberry as well, so.
We can double check that. No, it doesn't, we're not seeing any large outstanding delinquencies.
No, as of.
Because that would usually show up on the balance
Your
sheet.
receivable.
520.
And I just realized I'm late
5:39.
since it's after 4, so I
Up to
have to run.
5:31.
Thank you all.
500.
Thank you. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate the hard work.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so the one suggestion from the committee is to not, or
It's the committee, Paul's the committee.
is
You're on
to not fund the $2,000 in general maintenance, and that's and that'll drop the percentage.
Yeah.
Just because,
You'll probably pass, because I'll try to say, if they ask, we'll say, I'm not gonna add more comments here.
Roll the dice, all right?
it's,
Yeah, if they ask us for commentary, say, you have our management proposed budget, you have their feedback.
yeah, that's, and we understand both sides of that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. So what's next? You got another budget meeting coming up?
Got it.
All right.
Oh,
As an aside, did you ever hear